Salutations everyone, this is Razor giving you guys another Overwatch video, and today we're going to talk about everyone's favorite beep boopin' bird lovin' tank of a character that's not actually a tank but actually does incredible damage, is Bastion. We know is going to be getting a buff. The current PTR has so many changes going up for this guy who we know plays a very niche role that's really only useful on certain portions of certain maps that we don't see very often. While he can be very effective at the lower levels of play, your bronze, silver, gold, and platinum, and I'm sure diamond as well, you still don't see him very often because, I mean, he has very high peaks and very low valleys. So he's a character that definitely, I felt like, has been in need of a rework for a long time. Obviously in the alpha, he had, a shield in front of him in turret mode, and he couldn't move everywhere that he wanted to. And he had a different ult that was like Junkrat's Riptire, and all those things got changed for the better. And in the beta, everyone's like going crazy over this Bastion character. Oh my god, he's so OP, I can't stand all these Bastions, what do I do? And then Blizzard is just tweeting out to everybody, just use Genji, use Genji, use Genji. And then people kind of figured it out, the game came out, the meta evolved, people started to figure out the strengths and weaknesses and the synergies of the characters, and Bastion just kind of absolutely fell to the wayside. He was like one of the first characters where people were just like, oh yeah, he's just not good. But you definitely can have success with Bastion, as I am having here, whether you're on attack or defense. Obviously, payload is probably the better way to go, or a hybrid when it comes to using this beat bootin' robot. So the changes that are coming to Bastion, or at least the ones that are in the PTR right now, we don't know if all of these will be implemented because we have seen a lot of backlash from people saying that he's like absolutely unkillable now. But he is in need of a rework. He does need a buff and possibly some nerfs. Like I said, he's got high peaks, low valleys. We need to kind of even him out to make him less effective when he's super effective and more effective when he's not effective. So to his sentry mode, the deploy time has been decreased from 1.5 to 1 second. I think this is a good change. It makes him, able to basically just survive more, along with the change to self-repair, where he can now use it while moving. It's bound to secondary fire, where it was formerly ability number 2, and no longer is interrupted by taking damage. So this, and it will be running off of a resource like D.Va's defense matrix, so you can't just, use it like, Roadhog and heal through everything in the universe. But this makes him much more viable because it'll make him more survivable. That half a second going in and out of deploy time for the sentry is very useful, because if you lost your shielder in front of you, whether you were getting bubbled by a Zarya or a Reinhardt was in front of you, or D.Va's defense matrixing, or someone is coming up on your flank, you start getting hit and you need to get out and go behind a corner or go behind a teammate or something, you were absolutely a sitting duck in many cases. If a soldier got the right flank on you, got a helix rocket, if a Pharah started doing splash damage from around the corner, or you couldn't spot her in the air quick enough, things were a little difficult for Bastion to be effective when it came to surviving when he doesn't have a ton of defenses ahead of him while he is in sentry mode. So I think this is really good. But the other changes they're tackling the issue of high peaks and low valleys. So the bullet spread in sentry mode has been increased by 50%, so it'll be a bigger spread and be less accurate. And the bullet spread is always at maximum. It's no longer a bloom. So this is kind of a trade-off here, because before, when you would start firing in recon mode, you would have a lower spread, so you would have to be more accurate. But if you were accurate, you would be able to do that pinpoint damage. So now you don't have to be as accurate because you're always at that maximum bloom, but at the same time, you're not going to be able to do as much long-range damage because of the spread is going to be always at its maximum. The magazine size for sentry mode has been increased from 200 to 300 and no longer will do headshot damage or critical damage. So, granted with squishies, headshots, would absolutely delete them, but even without headshots, Bastion would just be able to wipe them out very easily. And with the triple tank meta, Bastion was almost kind of an answer to that, because they were always big targets, and he would be able to rip through Ryan shields like nobody else in the game can. So it felt like he had a role in that area, and this kind of finds, I think, a middle maybe it's too strong, maybe it's a little too weak. I don't know. We haven't had enough testing on it until it's into the actual game where everyone can try it out. We won't really see the effects of this patch. So you'll be doing less damage in Sentry mode because you aren't getting crits, you aren't getting headshots, and the bloom is bigger, so you aren't going to be able to hit as many shots on as many targets, but you don't need to be as accurate, even though I feel like that's only a negative because it's really not hard to be accurate with Bastion. It's not like you're a Widowmaker or McCree or something. But with the magazine size increase, which typically you wouldn't need 200 rounds for most instances, but now with 300, you won't have to worry about, you know, needing to reload or go into recon mode to finish off a Ryan shield or an enemy that's really low on health. So this is a bit of a trade-off. Now, in the recon mode, this is where he needed the buff, right? So his bullet spread has been decreased by 25%, and the magazine increased from 20 to 25 rounds. This is where I felt like he needed the biggest change, the biggest buff, because he was very, very weak in that mode. He just didn't do a ton of damage. Not like, you know, Winston garbage damage, but as you can see, we get the team kill here with my ult and the soldier ult, and we just completely wipe them out here on attack Route 66 here with the Bastion. I'm on fire. That's why you don't see any moss or twigs on me, because I burnt all that shit off, because I'm a good Bastion. Even though oftentimes when I do play Bastion, which isn't very often, I think he's my second least used character behind Torbjorn. Because I feel bad when I play Bastion. I really do. I feel like, because I've been on the other side of that fight, and I know I'm more effective than most other players when I choose to be Bastion. Of course, I'm not always going to choose to be Bastion, because, you know, there's a reason we don't see a lot of him, because he's not very viable in many cases. You know, snipers can do really well against him, whether it be Ana or Widowmaker or Hanzo. Genji, of course, is the #1 answer to him, because he can deflect all those bullets and his shurikens don't have any damage drop off. So if you catch him in recon mode, you can get a lot of quick damage really easily, and then maybe, you know, Dragon Strike in there to finish him off, or get up in his face and then reflect and melee him or something. So he definitely has, you know, easy answers against him, which is why he's a surprise pick, because no one thinks like there's going to be a Bastion in certain cases. Obviously, if you're on attack Anubis and you see a Bastion behind a Reinhardt shield, you aren't super duper surprised. But if you're on Route 66 defense and all of a sudden there's this Bastion on attack, you're like, oh, that's kind of weird. You know, not a lot of people prepare for that or are ready for that. So the ability to go in and out of sentry mode, I think, is a good thing. The increase to the magazine size and the decrease to the bullet spread is going to make him more lethal, and the ability to heal off of resource, but at the same time you won't be interrupted during damage, is a good thing. It makes him... his biggest weaknesses are now been mitigated, and his biggest strengths, I think, are being mitigated as much as well. But you also are getting a 35% damage decrease when in Sentry and in ult configuration mode, which is, I believe, probably the worst thing about this, because it makes him tankier in Sentry mode, where with the other updates he would have already been have higher survivability. So we're not going to be able to tell until the PTR is out. There's my final score. Get 3 gold medals. We get the overtime victory. And he's kind of a fun character to play. Sometimes I feel bad when I play him, which is why I don't play him so often, but it's mostly because he isn't viable in a ton of situations. So with this patch in the PTR, if everything goes through, he's definitely going to be more viable. We're going to see a ton more Bastion, whether you like it or not. We'll be seeing a lot more of him, and he'll be more effective, but you probably shouldn't be tankier when in Sentry mode, because we need that balance. Obviously, you can shoot him in the back end with that blue cube and do double damage, but there's certain instances where he is super duper effective. This is going to help him more than it hurts, which is, I think, the opposite of what we wanted. But who knows?